Hello and welcome back to Live in the Hive with me, Katie Besson. And today I'm joined by Mima Stones, the social media manager at Coolstays. So, hello, Mima. It's great to have you on
Hello.
the podcast today.
Hi, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Awesome. So, first of all, tell me a little bit about your role at Coolstays and also your experience in the industry and with social media.
Sure. So I have now been with Coolstays for 4 years. So I joined them at the end of 2020, following the real staycation boom in the UK because of obviously lockdowns. People couldn't go abroad, couldn't go to hotels. So the whole self-catering thing really took off. And so they found themselves in a position where they needed someone to take on the role of social media and community manager. And I had sadly been made redundant during COVID. So I had been doing social media for a big tourist attraction in Kent. But obviously, when it had to close for the best part of the year, redundancies were made. So it's worked out perfectly for me in that I then found my role with Cool Stays. So yes, so I do the social media management, which is looking after the brand across all the platforms. But as well as that, we're quite a small team, which I think surprises people. So in the whole of Cool Stays, there's only 17 employees. And on the sort of social media marketing side, there's about four of us. So it's a bit of a case of where each of us have the skills um, to meet a task or to get something completed, then we are quite happy to be fairly fluid with our job roles and jump in with things. So as well as looking after the social media, I also do a lot with sort of brand collaborations and partnerships. Events, we've not done too many, but we're a couple we have done. I've sort of taken over the organisation of those. We dipped our toe into the water with merchandise, which was quite a fun little experiment. Graphic design, really anything creative that the brand needs. We're quite happy to step up and fulfill. It's an interesting role because it's looking after our audiences on social media, but also making sure all the owners who work with Cool Stays are happy and satisfied with what they're getting from us. So yeah, it's different to my previous social media roles. So as I say, before I joined Coolstays, I was working for Leeds Castle in Kent, doing their social media. So still within the world of sort of tourism and travel. Before that, I worked for a gin distillery. Again, they did tours, so it sort of did have a tourism aspect, and it was a really small company. So that was where I really evolved into being a bit of an all-round marketer, because my university degree was communications, so it was quite heavily focused on social media because it was around 2011 when it was really just becoming its own entity. So yeah, but I found a job that sort of um, allows me to use all that skills and experience in one role, which is brilliant.
Amazing. And yeah, I always say within marketing, there's so many different areas that you can specialize in and so many areas that you can use to promote your holiday property. And even within social media, there's so many different ways that you can engage your audience. So, how does Cool Stays approach its social media strategy to sort of engage with its target audience?
Yeah. So as I said, it's a quite a complicated role that we have to fulfill, in that we've got to make sure the owners who, so Coolstays works on a subscription basis, so owners pay us a subscription to be on our site. So we have to make sure that they are satisfied with the service that we're providing. And quite often, what has attracted them to us is our large social media following and social media presence. But at the same time, we have to make sure the content we're putting out is what our audience wants to see. So really, our overall strategy is thinking of social media as the shop window. So it's putting the most engaging, the scroll stopping, if you like, properties out there for people to see, which might be, a little house that's been carved into a boulder, or a tree house, an amazing tree house in Norway, which are going to get people engaged and hopefully get them to come to the site, but it might not be that property they're looking for. Once they're on the site, they've then got that knowledge of the brand that once they're looking for a lovely cottage in the Lake District, they remember us so that they can come back when they're actively seeking. So, really, social media, the strategy for us is just building that brand recognition, and making sure we are utilizing each platform appropriately. So Facebook, we tend to post a lot more regularly on because obviously you've got the ability to put a link in. So that's a lot more sort of promoting individual properties. Whereas we think of Instagram as being our brand builder. So that's why we want to build the brand recognition to get people coming back. TikTok is still very much a developing platform for us, still finding the right footing with our audience on there. But we've managed to grow an audience to about 60,000 on there over the last 2 years now. So it's growing and it's getting there. But obviously, it is still a younger demographic, so they're not quite our target audience. But they do say that it's the sort of 25 to 45 age range on TikTok that's growing the most rapidly. So it's somewhere that we definitely need to be and need to be investing time into having a presence on.
Yeah, and I also know that and not technically, I know a social media platform is also Pinterest as well. Do you use Pinterest
Yes,
for
yeah.
marketing?
So we do. We used to post each property on there individually, but I think they got a little bit lost, and Pinterest has moved a lot now to sort of almost having like a title page as the clickable image. So we tend to use that a lot more now for promoting our blog posts. So we've just done one that's 20 amazing stays where you can walk to a pub. So it's just sort of a little title image for that, which then leads to a blog, which then leads to a list of properties. So again, it's a nice gateway into the site. And I think it's a more engaging way to capture people on Pinterest because it's rare that someone will be searching on there for a very specific type of property. They'll be looking for more general travel inspiration. So, yeah, it's just tailoring the content we put out on each platform to what's going to resonate with the audiences on there. For example, YouTube, we have tried with and not seen much success. And I think it's because it's a much more it's a much larger male audience on YouTube. And even though it's 2024, it tends to be women who are doing the bookings for trips and travel and doing the research behind it. And therefore, I mean, our female audience across other platforms is about 80%, which I think is why YouTube just hasn't taken off for us the same way the other platforms have. But we're going to persevere. We're working on it.
Yeah, that's really interesting. That's good to know. Also, with social media, user generated content is really important nowadays to build that like no trust factor. So, how do you encourage that for Coolstays and engage with your followers on social media?
We've got two ways that we are actively doing that. So we have a hashtag that we have it in the bio on our Instagram of just hashtag #MyCoolStay as a way to encourage people to share that with us. I think sometimes it's a phrase that isn't necessarily specific to our brand. You know, if somebody's describing somewhere they're staying as cool, they might use that hashtag. So there's quite a lot of sifting out of things that actually aren't to do with us via that. So we've got a much more targeted method now in that people who are registered with Coolstays who we know have booked something will now get a follow-up email, and it will encourage them to use the hashtag, tag us in their content stays, and every month we will allocate a voucher. So I think it's about a 150 or £200 voucher that will be awarded to the content that we like the most, really. So it's just an incentivized way of getting people to share that content. Because equally, we want people when they're having their stay to just enjoy it. You don't want to think about having to tag brands and things. The whole point of it is to relax and switch off. And, you know, a lot of the cabins are off grid. So we don't want people to be thinking about being on their phones and catching everything. But if they have been happy to do that and produce the content, then yeah, we'd like to see it and we'd love to be able to share it. My colleague looks after most of our video content, and I know she spends a lot of time looking through Instagram to try and find those reels or posts that have been done by people and then asking if we can use it. So it's quite organic the way we try and get user generated content. We are seeing the rise in people contacting us saying, we offer user generated content services, but so far we haven't felt the need to use those.
Yeah. And that brings me on to the next question, which is about sort of using influencers or travel bloggers. Have you experimented with that? And if so, how has that impacted your sort of brand visibility and things?
Yeah, so yes, we've definitely worked with them. Definitely in the earlier days, even before I joined Coolstays, there were a few travel bloggers like the Travel Project. I don't know if you've heard of them, that we worked with quite closely to try and develop our audience. As our audience has gotten bigger naturally, and the number of properties on the site has gotten bigger, we haven't used influencers as much, but we are trying to pivot back towards that. Um, but interestingly, we do still work with travel specific content creators, but we're also trying to branch out more now into sort of like family orientated bloggers or foodie bloggers to try and diversify our audiences. I mean, I think a lot of people who are following travel content creators are probably already following us anyway. So to try and reach those corners of the internet that aren't aware of us or our stays, yeah, we're trying to diversify and work with people who wouldn't normally have a travel related or destination related post on their page, just to make it stand out a bit more. And I think it comes across as a more authentic recommendation then from someone, rather than a travel content creator who obviously needs to keep generating these days to keep their aesthetic and their content and their audience happy, which yeah, obviously makes sense, and they are incredibly valuable to us. But yeah, just trying a bit of a different strategy, and it seems to be going quite well so far.
Awesome.
But we've had a few sort of hit and miss encounters with a few influencers and creators. So it has just meant that we've had to really tighten up the way we work with them. So we now sort of make sure we have contracts in place and agreements that go to the owner and go to the creators, so that everything's written down and on paper and everyone's accountable for what they produce and what they're expected to do. Just to try and streamline it as much as possible, because it's a lot of responsibility for us if we are asking an owner to give up a few nights in their gorgeous property, and we really, really do not underestimate how valuable those are for them, to host a creator who, it's always a little bit of a gamble whether it's going to pay off. So we make sure we do real due diligence with that is somebody who we're happy to recommend and that we can trust to follow through on what they promise, really, and make sure that the owner's time hasn't been wasted, that they're not left with a horrific day of cleaning and changeovers and things for somebody to just have a free stay. But it is, we do recognise that it's a key part of marketing these days, and you can't really do completely successful travel marketing without using them. Um, so yeah.
Yeah, as you say, there's always a little bit of risk with marketing, and you never know quite what's going to pay off. You might have an idea of what might work well, and sometimes might be a flop, and other things you think, oh, that's not going to
Yeah,
take off, and it does. You never quite know. So
yeah.
yeah,
We've
having that contract in place as well just really strengthens it, doesn't it?
yeah, we've tried to, because it's the tracking of the success of an influencer's visit or a content creator's visit that we've struggled to really get a hold of in the past. So now we make sure we're providing with trackable links, and we're saying for at least every other story, please make sure you're using this link so that we can see the traffic going to the website. And usually we've got a verifiable kind of spike in visits to the property's listing or an increase in bookings, which is always nice, or the properties themselves see a spike in their followers. So we just have to make sure that there is something tangible that comes out of it.
Yeah, yeah, sure. And also with social media, there's so many different trends to be a part of, all these new platforms emerging all the time. So, what social media trends do you see as most relevant to the industry today?
I mean, the biggest one, and I don't think this would even be called a trend because it's very much here to stay, but the pivot to video over stills. I mean, if you look at our Instagram feed from even a year ago versus today, I think we probably maybe at a push we're putting one or two videos out a week, so reels on Instagram. Um, but now I think it's the complete reverse in that I'd say about five of our posts a week are reels. Where possible, we are always asking owners to send us video content if they have it, or if there's an opportunity for us to go and visit and create some. Um, I think that's the biggest change we've seen that's most important to the industry. And then I think there's also the shift in what people want from when they travel. So I think that the whole growth of social media is this sort of way of displaying aspiration and bucket list things. It's really, you've got to make sure that for every property, you're identifying what the USPs are and you're just hammering those home in terms of you want incredible views this close to this amazing place in the Lake District. This is what you've got. If you want a hot tub that overlooks the Peak District, this is here, and just making sure that yeah, making sure that you are using the time for a reel or a TikTok wisely, because I look back on the ones I was producing maybe 2 years ago and they're like a minute and 30 seconds long, and it's a whole property tour, and people obviously just don't engage with those anymore. Most reels are about 9 seconds long, I think now. So it's so short. So we really do just have to make sure that we're targeting those USPs and making it look as unique and aspirational, and you know making sure people are aware of something's a real hidden gem or equally something really iconic. So one of our stays is the Beltu Lighthouse, which is along Seven Sisters. So it's something that lots of people have walked past but maybe not understood it's a B&B on Coolstays. um, and so it's just showing off that you can actually stay there, and those things tend to generate some really good engagement. Likewise, we used to list before the owners sadly sold it. We used to list the house from Sex Education, the Netflix show, which people went absolutely crazy over because it's this beautiful house perched on a hillside in Simondsyatt in Herefordshire. And yeah, so just making sure we're really identifying those stays that are going to hit a cultural trend as well. So, when new series of Bridgerton comes out, we make sure we've got all the Georgian mansions identified. And we had great success with a reel of a property called the Watershed recently, which had been of Grand Designs. So people recognised it, and so yeah, so it's a mix of finding the hidden gems, the unique stuff, and also the aspirational, iconic stays as well.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, video is definitely king, isn't it, for social media? And
Yeah,
also nowadays it just doesn't, as you said, it doesn't have to be long at all. You don't have to spend, well, you can still spend lots of time on a 9 second video, but
yeah,
it doesn't have to be this huge production. It can be quite a small little snippet
yeah.
of your property.
Yeah, I sometimes when I do a property visit where I'm shooting footage for reels and TikToks, I do have to sort of just warn the owners and sort of say, I know I'm here for, almost 4 hours. It is going to be a short video, but we've got all that content and we will remake it into more videos in the future. And this is just what resonates now on social media. And I think it is making sure that everyone understands that the algorithm is king, and what we put on there has to work with the algorithm. Otherwise, it's no point. If nobody sees what we're putting up there, what's the point in it being there?
Yeah, exactly. And so, in terms of measuring the success of your sort of social media campaigns, how do you go about seeing what's going well? What do you look for in a post that's performing well?
Well, I think ultimately our goal with everything that goes on social media is to get traffic to the website. So we've got a great tech team who have really put in a lot of effort into making sure we can track web page views, and on our company CMS, the homepage of it lists the most popular listings for that day or for that week. And for us as the marketing team, it's always really satisfying because you will see that the video that has gone up on Instagram the day before is top of that list now in terms of who's getting the most visits. Or Jo, who puts all our blogs and mailers together, if she puts one out the next day, you can guarantee the top 10 are 10 from that blog. So, yeah, I think traffic to the website is the most important metric. Obviously, for owners, they can't always see that. And unless the inquiries are then coming through off the back of that, it doesn't mean a lot to them. So it is still important that we're making sure that our posts are getting good engagement so that we can then go to the owners and say, look, this many people have seen it, it's got X amount of saves. So you have to remember that not everybody who's looking at a post is actively seeking a holiday or a stay, but if they've saved it for later, you've got to play the long game a little bit when it comes to travel. Not everybody's in a position to instantly book something. So hopefully they'll then see a trickle throughout the next, if be it months or even up to a year, of people then coming back and booking that stay because they've seen it on social media. Um, so yeah, so we have to make sure the engagement is good, and I think that's probably the most key metric for making sure that things are working. But ultimately, traffic to the website is how we measure if it's successful.
Yeah, sure. And also with social media, there's obviously some challenges. Things are changing all the time, and the algorithm and the updates and everything. I think even recently, Instagram's changing the way it's doing its grid.
Yeah.
So, what are some challenges you've faced managing, the social media of Coolstays, and how do you overcome these different challenges that pop up?
Yeah, well, as you say, it's changing algorithms. So earlier this year, about sort of March, April time, we had noticed that our engagement rate was just over the last few months, it had just gone lower and lower and lower. And so we really had to sit back and do a bit of an audit as to what we were putting on social media, why this wasn't working anymore. And we realized that we were just posting too often. So we'd sort of gotten to a place where we were posting maybe a grid post and a reel on most days, and it was just too much. And people just don't engage, if they see one post after another. So we've really scaled back on that. We're posting less, which doesn't make everyone in the team happy because obviously they want to be able to promise owners signing up with us that they're going to get an Instagram post, that they're going to get the full works. But unfortunately, it just means that we have to be really selected. We have to make sure our feed is really curated so that it gives the aesthetic of Coolstays. Rather than making sure individual owners are appeased, we have to remember that it's our shop window. So it's getting people to the website rather than displaying everything on sale on the website. So I think that's our biggest challenge, is making sure that we are remembering the bigger picture of why we're on social media. Because day to day, when we're talking to owners, we want to make them happy, and all we want to be able to say is, yes, of course we can do that for you, but we have to make sure that we're sticking to our strategy, because at the end of the day, that is what is going to benefit everyone involved.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, final question for today's podcast is what tip have you got for owners who may be managing their social media platforms themselves, or a tip that's not related to marketing at all?
Oh, I think it's going to be related to marketing. I would say definitely invest in some good video content and make sure you're asking for it to be tailored for social media. So shot vertically, because quite often we'll ask owners for video and they send us gorgeous, gorgeous landscape shots. But unfortunately, once you translate that onto a mobile device, you're cropping too much out to make the video work beautifully. So I think that is it. I think owners definitely, most of them do these days, understand the true value of social media and that it is worth that investment. And as well, as I said before, just making sure you keep in mind what your USPs are. Quite often we'll get photos through from a new property that are all absolutely beautiful, but some are focused on some little details like some gorgeous door handles or something like that. And you just want to say, just remember the bits that you really need to show people that are going to make them want to stay there. So it's going to be the view, it's going to be the hot tub. If it's dog friendly, have a picture with a dog living its best life there. Um, so yeah, I think it is about remembering the bigger picture and not being scared to invest in some social media. And if that means giving up a few nights to get a content creator there, it in the long run it is probably worth it. Just make sure that you're getting full use of whatever content they create. So yeah, so being quite savvy about contracts and things with content as well. But we're more than happy to advise any owners with us about that and support people through it. So yeah, I think those are my.
Perfect. So where can owners find out a bit more about Coolstays, and where can they find you?
So if they want to know more about Coolstays, our website is coolstays.com, and on there you will find a tab that is List with Us, where you can find details of all the packages we offer, and there'll be a button to send an inquiry. You can have a look at our Instagram feed, which is just Coolstays on Instagram, equally the same on TikTok and on Facebook. And if you just want to get in touch, then you can email hello@coolstays.com, and one of the team will be more than happy to answer any inquiries.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Mima, for coming
Thank
on the
you.
podcast today and sharing all of your social media insights, managing Coolstays, awesome social media. So, yeah,
Thank
thank you
you.
so much. It's been great having you on the podcast.
Oh, lovely. Thank you so much for having me.